True value, right? True value. What is true to you? Okay. What exactly is value? Value, depending on who you're asking, right? Some things that you value, another may not value. Okay, value is only value because we have placed value on something. Okay, so let's talk about the energy. Let's talk about, today we are going to talk about decompression pockets. Okay, it is field mechanics. I know it's not going to be everybody's flavor, but when you become aware of it, it'll be like that little aha, oh my god, I've experienced that before, or this is what's happening. Okay, so decompression pockets. I experienced one on Friday. And you're likely, if you work out in the matrix, you you work around people, you're going to experience these pockets. They are likely going to happen probably all this week. There's going to be a lot of them. Okay. There's going to be a lot of them. Okay. Next month, our Mercury retrograde cycle. Some of you guys, right, we're non-linear. So some of you guys experience things before the actual collective as well, especially if you know that you are a nodal point. Okay. So decompression pockets. Energy builds when it isn't metabolized. When there's no outlet, no responsibility, no integration, it pressurizes. Eventually, it has to go somewhere. That somewhere looks like frustration, anger, grief, sadness, projection, chaos. Not because people are bad, but because pressure seeks release. When pressurized energy encounters a coherent node, it pauses, not to stick or to be fixed, but to borrow orientation. Like steam hitting cooler air and briefly condensing so it can figure out where it's going next. The coherent node doesn't hold it, doesn't absorb it. It provides a moment of stabilization because the space is spacious and non-adhesive. Nothing anchors there. So the energy discharges, spills, vents, and then the field does what fields do. It reorganizes. The energy doesn't disappear. It redistributes back to where it is still in resonance. Meaning, whoever is still identified with that frequency receives it again. The lesson loops until it's integrated. The coherent node is just a pass-through, not a landfill. A lot of you guys have heard about grid workers. Okay, this is kind of falls in the lines of exactly that. So, you've all felt this. We've all been in rooms where tension just leaks. Ever notice how one calm person can steady a space, but only temporarily? And then, when they leave, it gets loud again. Anyone can act as a coherent node temporarily. Most people do it unconsciously. The cost comes when they don't know how to disengage from it. That looks like an emotional attachment or an emotional charge or martyrdom, where you feel like you need to carry to lighten somebody's load. But if you lighten their load, they will never integrate the lesson, and they don't need you as a mirror. Okay, they need somebody that is operating around their same frequency, okay, to be their mirror. Okay, some will never realize, all right? And some will, okay? And that's still not your responsibility, okay? Anyone can act, yeah, we just said that. All right, the cost comes when they don't know how to disengage. 1, pressure builds up. We made some, let me get it here. Bear with me. All right, pressure buildup. 2, energy release. 3, the coherent node. 4, I can't talk today, you guys. Redistribution. 5, return to resonance. When you hear people talking about return to sender, that's exactly what they mean, right? That frequency doesn't belong to them, and it needs to go back to the one that is leaking it or projecting it, okay? A coherent node knows what's theirs and what is not. So here's a full diagram. We're going to leave that up there. What is a field? A living environment we're all inside of. Emotional tone, the unspoken tension, the shared atmosphere that responds to what's happening in real time. It's living because it reacts. It stores pressure, releases pressure, reorganizes itself. It's not static. It's relational, not personal. It responds to behaviors, emotions, truths, and avoidance. It holds unprocessed energy until it finds movement. It doesn't judge it. It balances. People don't cause everything in the field, but they participate in it. The field isn't separate from source. It's not a layer above or below. It's source in motion. Source, right? God, the universe, whoever you deem as the oneness of all. The language barrier is what keeps us stuck, right? So it's source in motion under conditions. Source is everywhere at once. The field is what happens when everywhere meets people, emotions, systems, and unprocessed experience. Same shit, different name. The force with no name, the Sagittarius reading, and it doesn't matter if you're a Sagittarius sun sign. Jupiter is about worldly events, okay? That reading will go with this. I didn't know it at the time. But it moves whether we label it or not. In fact, the moment it's named, it's harder to argue with, harder to weaponize, harder to turn into identity. And the transmission that I did called Becoming No One, it's one and the same. And the force with no name and the becoming no one. So when I initially, the deck that I created, it's called the Liminal Archetype Oracle. I'll tell you how the field does have a sense of humor, okay? When I first got the deck, there was a misprint, okay? Or was it? 9, the densities and dimensions, awareness, expression, states of being. Densities describe levels of consciousness. Dimensions describe how consciousness expresses itself, right? Awareness and expression, all right? And then on the back side, right, the so-called misprint, card number 10. 9 and 10 is 19, which is the sun card in tarot. So, becoming no one, ego dissolution, oversoul voice, vessel consciousness. The self steps aside so truth may speak. Identity dissolves, authorship ends. What remains is the voice of the lineage moving through a willing vessel. So, right, becoming no one. But also, when we add identity, we become the self. So we shift in and out of authorship all the time without, whether you're conscious of it or you are not. So if you would like to purchase this deck, you can email me at divinationbydawn8@gmail.com. The first run of this deck will include the so-called misprint, but the amended cards are in here as well. So do be aware, okay? That's what's happening. It's like contractions, okay? It's the field, it is source trying to orient itself, okay, and stabilize its frequency, okay, long enough that it can remember who it is through you. Coherence. When you are everything at once, okay, it's fragmented, okay, and when you have something stable enough, conscious enough to hold this paradox, it stabilizes the system. Sometimes it moves through, sometimes it orients itself, and sometimes it causes a chain reaction, okay? It only looks like chaos. Pure creative energy is chaotic until you know how to wield it, okay? It is called what people refer to as darkness, the feminine aspect, and or pure creative energy, okay? It's the void space before anything at all was created. So it is about depth. I'm hearing depth perception, okay? I'm also hearing the cosmic womb. I'm seeing the Ouroboros sign, the snake eating its tail, okay? So the poet and the beauty, creativity, resonance, expression, romance, inspiration, are harmonious union that inspires and captivates. Some of you guys are acting as a muse, okay? And or, right, if you're resonate with being a coherent node, okay, you are being used as an example of another way of being. It's giving me the timeline split. Sometimes I really don't like using that, but I mean, it's very true. Those that are still choosing to loop, those that are still living on the surface, right, insert depth perception. It's like being a cardboard cutout, okay? It always gives me Looking Through the Glass by Stone Sour, right? It looks like it's deep, it looks like it's alive, but actually it is knotted up and it's a dead field, basically. When you get closer and you view it from a different angle, when you look at it, it's a cutout. It's just surface level, okay? It's not an actual nothing new is being integrated, okay? So the channeler and the vessel, mysticism, mediumship, attunement, purity. One transmits divine guidance while the other holds space. Together they bridge the spiritual and the physical. It's giving the living field, right? 27, the caregiver and the wounded one. Compassion, comfort, empathy, support. One offers tenderness and healing. The other is in need of care and understanding. Okay, once you understand it, yeah, it is sometimes chaotic. Yes, it can be very draining, but there is a bigger symphony at play here. Okay, everything, everywhere, all at once is exactly it. Different states of consciousness inhabiting all at once. I really like this one too. 52, the oversoul, the soul, higher self, connection, guidance, eternity, a cosmic consciousness from which many individual souls arise. Their energy is embodied in diverse forms. 5, the walk-in and the upgrade. I love it. Walk-ins, integration, embodiment, higher self. One soul steps out, another steps in. The body remains, the destiny changes. These are the different timelines playing out. Whether you choose to ascend, activate them, or you regress, you go further down into the spiral, okay? You drop down densities, okay? And there's nothing wrong with it either way, okay? It's about what the soul needs to still integrate or learn. And sometimes, I sent thine angel, right? Sometimes you will drop down, okay, to help another, okay? When you're at the top, in unconditional love, all right, you don't see right or wrong, okay? But you're able to hold many different perspectives at once, okay? Sometimes you drop down, okay, to teach what is so-called right or wrong, or be a guide, or show another a way, okay? Be an elder, if you will. The protector, the heart opener, support, compassion, connection, healing, a guardian and an empath. Their bond creates a sacred space for love to blossom. Some of you guys, okay, the way that it was described to me, okay, you have to know when to disconnect, all right? You have to know, okay, if you continuously provide cushion, we never learn, okay? We never learn. Sometimes you got to take the hard fall. It's like the trickster energy in its higher form, okay? Moving around furniture, all right? And then, right, somebody trips over it, but they push a couch behind them to catch their fall, okay? So now it is not your job, okay, to so-called create the chaos, okay? It's not your job to do that, and it's not your job to be the cushion either. Sometimes you just have to step back and let the energy redistribute and let go of any outcome, because at the end of the day, everybody has free will and free will choice. And if you are awake, you remember a point in time where you were being handled, you were this, you were that, and your free will choice was so-called not available or taken away from you at that time. So if you remember that, you absolutely will not impose on another being's free will choice. So the point of this video today was just to put the information here, okay, and bring awareness of how the living field works. Some of you guys are like, that's not really fair. You know, especially if you work out in this, okay, you can't really choose who you work around, you know, but you can choose what you participate in and what you absorb, okay? Yeah, we all have to kind of sort of do our time and play our roles, if you will. So anyway, that's what I got for you guys. Let me get you some messages from your guides before we cut out of here. If you haven't already, hit that like button. It is greatly appreciated. Subscribe, okay? Thank you all for your super chats, your time, and the support in the channel. Like I said, if you would like to purchase the deck, my email will be in the description box. No pressure, right? All right. There was a specific deck that I was going to use. Right here it is. Also, I've been holding on to this. I don't know whose message this is for. I will probably be saying this as I finish up the members readings. If you, okay, how do I word this? If you are taking mushrooms or any substance like that to try to become more aware or force things to come without being prepared physically, without metabolizing, without integration. I don't suggest that. Somebody's guides here are adamant about that. So in indigenous cultures, you need an elder, okay? An elder there will help you metabolize, okay? I do not suggest going off on any of those side quests, okay? Quite honestly, I don't condone or co-sign on any drugs whatsoever, anything that alters consciousness, but I'm just putting that out there. I'm not telling anybody what to do with their energy, okay? The dream of co-creation, manifestation, divine partnership, frequency alignment. Like I said, the frequency and alignment. Yeah, you're helping source to remember itself, okay? We are not completely helpless here, okay? We are passengers, we are co-creators. Sometimes we're the passenger and sometimes we're the driver. It just depends on who is behind the wheel at the time. Sometimes we have to let ego, surrender ego and let the higher mind drive, and sometimes we need to let the ego drive, okay? Some of you guys are creators, okay? And 2026 is going to be a huge leap for that. All right. Some people that if you are spiritual, whatever, okay, the so-called spiritual woo-woo, many people are waking up to that way of being, okay? What sounded absurd before isn't so absurd now, is it? Okay. It's giving me the old, like the old gods, the old without distortion. The eyes of mystery, mystery, uncharted territory, deep knowing, and there's that deep, okay? The more conscious, the more aware, okay? The deeper you have went, okay? The deeper, the more depth. The depth perception is exactly what this is. Some of you guys, you're going to wake up and you're going to realize that you've been living in a collective dream, okay? Meaning that was not what your dream was at all, okay? It wasn't. You've been the socially acceptable dream, all right? Whatever that is, you're going to realize that you've been living in a collective dream, okay? Some of you guys are still trying to figure out your place, your purpose, okay? And I'll tell you how you do that. You unhook with the going along to get along, okay? It's going to be so-called uncomfortable at first. It's going to be lonely at first. Small talk, different things like this will just be unbearable to you, okay? The shopping, okay, going in loud, busy places, okay, because, right, that's where this energy gets compressed. There's hardly any coherence, especially in environments of drinking, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and you're going to be like, what am I doing here? What is my purpose? And I'll tell you what your purpose is, okay? Whatever sings to your soul, okay? Whatever lights you up, whatever sparks your curiosity, okay? That's the direction to follow so that you can remember your own dream. Emergence of true knowing. I think I said something along the lines of this in the very beginning. Intuition, rigorous honesty, inventory, and you got to get honest with yourself, okay? Take an inventory. I'm also hearing accountability, okay? So that's what I got for you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Peace, love, and light.